There may have been a time when being unified under common challenges was an easier concept than it is today. But undeniably, we are living in a time where our greater reliance on one another has collided with a period of greater tribalism. Now, it would be wrong to assume that this is a new phenomenon. Research, in fact, has shown that humans are so inclined to form natural tribes that if you put a completely unconnected, diverse group of people into a room and flip a coin for each, those two groups will automatically form a suspicion of one another based on nothing more than heads versus tails. Scientist and writer Robert Sapolsky recently reminded us that humans organise, whether it's class, race, country, or coin flipping. There has always been a tendency to form us versus other. But he also asks the question, what if we change what us means? Instead of fierce nationalism or self-interest, we seek to form our tribes based on concepts that can and should be universal. What if we no longer see ourselves based on what we look like, what religion we practice, or where we live, but by what we value? Humanity, kindness, an innate sense of connection to each other, and a belief that we are guardians, not just of our home and our planet, but of each other. We are borderless, but we are connected. We are inherently different, but we have more that we share. We may feel afraid, but as leaders we have the keys to create a sense of security and a sense of hope. We just need to choose. Tātou tātou, nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.
It's Wednesday the 2nd of April and it must be election year.
Excuse me, Peter, what are your concerns about the latest immigration statistics?
Oh, they're horrible. That is Peter Brown, New Zealand First's deputy leader, commenting on population projections out today, which estimate that by 2026 there'll be 3.4 million New Zealanders in the European or other category, 820,000 in the Māori category, 790,000 in the Asian category, and 480,000 in the Pacific category. Horrible, said Mr Brown, who put out a statement about Asian immigration saying, and I quote, "They will form their own mini-societies to the detriment of integration, and that will lead to division, friction and resentment." Peter Brown joins us live from our Wellington studio now. Welcome to the programme. Did you run the statement by Winston Peters before you put it out?
No, I didn't. I stuck to New Zealand First policy.
Right, so wait a minute. Your boss is the Minister of Immigration. Over half the world's population, in fact, roughly 2/3 of the world's population are Asian. Sorry, Minister of Foreign Affairs. You didn't run this past him before you put it out?
No, he was tied up. He's a pretty busy man.
He was tied up. You couldn't read a press statement to him over the phone. Okay, let's talk about some Asian New Zealanders. Pansy Wong, National Party MP, Peter Chin, Mayor of Dunedin, Meng Foon, Mayor of Gisborne, Beck Runga, singer-songwriter. What do you say to them about the inference that they are causing division, friction and resentment?
No, you're twisting the whole statement.
No,
You've got the statement there, no, John. What our concern was is 390,000 Asians coming in this country between now, in the next 20 years. That's a huge amount. And
Mr Brown, I'm going to stop you there because that's not true. Roughly 160,000 of those people will be born here, won't they? You know that, don't you?
No, I don't know that.
Because Māori, for example, quite rightly would argue that they've taken them an awfully long time to get to a place probably where they're not yet where they feel they should be. I mean, is there a new dynamic there that we have to worry about, Paul?
Well, there is, and I mean, in terms of Auckland, it's already happened. So the Asian community is now considerably larger than the Māori community of Auckland, and yet Auckland is the largest Māori community in the country. Right. So I think Auckland is the test case or the laboratory in which we get to play, and play is probably the wrong word because it's much more serious than that, but in which we get to play around and decide how we do politics, and in this case, recognition of diversity. And we started today by talking about council and the wards, and we're far from getting that right. So we need to ask the question right around the community: are there differences between people who are tangata whenua in terms of recognition as opposed to those who are immigrants and their descendants? And my answer is yes.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think the conversation should be a very different conversation. And so I react quite strongly and very negatively when people say, you know, there's me, I'm Pākehā, and there's others who are different. No, there are not. They're not all the same. And we need to recognise and nuance those sorts of conversations.
I feel like with that kind of positioning of Pākehā versus everyone else, I always try to think of the ideal as being Māori and everyone else, because Māori are, they're kind of the only unique kind of aspect of New Zealand that really needs to be upheld if we are to move forward. And I think there just needs to be more solidarity.
They shouldn't be out there. So let's come back to this Hobson's Pledge for a moment. So Hobson's Pledge, as many of you will know, I took on last year when it emerged that they were just putting around a whole little hoo-ha about Māori. And in fact, when you look at their webpage, and don't go there, but if you were to look at their webpage, what you will see is a singular focus on hating Māori and calling us everything under the sun, as well as trying to reclaim words that apparently Hobson used, which is we are all one nation and one people. Well, we are actually not. We are a multiplicity of cultures and people that just so happen to live in the same country, and chief among those people were the first inhabitants of Aotearoa, which were Māori, and you can debate where we come from, Polynesia, Taiwan, South Korea, Waikato, Mukau, but we were the first here. And that is the premise of the definition of a First Nations people, all right? So the first thing is to Hobson's Pledge, no, we are not all one people. We are a multicultural society. We are a diverse society. Many people have arrived in our shores since the founding of the country by, means of a European definition, post-settlement. But Māori were the first ones here. We are the First Nations people. We are kaitiaki, a whole kaitiaki ship over the country, and all these things in between. So let's just clear that up.
Racism, maybe white people's worst invention.
It definitely is, closely followed by this thing.
It's been around since white people existed, but we really only like to acknowledge it every 50 years or so.
Do you acknowledge it though? I mean, I've never been to a Jubilee. This year has been one of those years, and when this guy shows up at a rally, you know shit is bad.
But what's it like in New Zealand? Are we really an island paradise?
Or has colonization, white supremacy, and the persistent denial of our treaty obligations actually had a lasting effect?
Because a quick survey of the country suggests that we are, in fact,
racist as fuck.
Broadly speaking, how often do you think about the fact that you're Māori in New Zealand?
Every day.
Cool.
Clearly I
what do you
am.
mean?
All of the colonial thought, all of the racist stuff that informed the way that Cook came here, it's not so much in the past. Lots of those things are like quite connected to how we behave now.
As Pākehā, we sometimes try to distance ourselves and say, oh, that was Cook and his ways back then. We ignore how much of that thinking we still carry in us.
Now, this is sort of the way that colonization works. Basically, you take a flag, you pop it down, if you see something nice, and then it's all yours. It's a wonderful system, actually, one that I use all the bloody time. Oh, this is quite nice here. There you go. This is a lovely bit of bench, waterfront property. You know what I think? Bad. That's mine.
Dressing up in colonial garb made me feel so nervous, you know. It was absolutely terrifying because it represents the worst of Pākehā people dressing up in like colonial, you know, like it feels so horribly loaded. Oh God, that smell. Mix of sweat and fear.
Right. Hello.
Well, Emmanuel Kalafatalis is a partner from Research NZ. Emmanuel, welcome to the panel.
Thank you, Wallace.
Tell us what you were asking in the poll.
Well, really, we decided to do this because obviously we were shocked by what happened on Friday, and in our own way, we decided that we needed to encourage public discussion about the issues that this rather sensitive crime has brought to everyone's attention. And we were particularly interested in hearing, media coverage of the fact that, or some people at least were commenting that for quite some time there's been an undercurrent of intolerance amongst New Zealanders of other cultures and religions, and at worst, that exhibited itself as racism. So that, if you like, provided the context for our survey. But within that context, we asked about things such as gun laws and social media platforms and government resourcing. So that's really the background to the to the survey.
Well, we've just come off the back of a fairly extensive conversation. So, what's your overall conclusion about these attitudes to diversity from the poll?
Well, I was just listening to what one of the other panel members said about the level of acceptance of diversity amongst New Zealanders. What was it? It was 17%. I actually look at it slightly differently because we measured New Zealanders' opinions of whether they think New Zealanders generally are accepting of different cultures and religions using a scale. So it ran from obviously a total acceptance through to no acceptance whatsoever. And really the perfect result that we would all want is that we would get 100% of everyone saying that New Zealanders are totally accepting. That if you like is nirvana. But we didn't actually get that. We got a lot of people at each end of that scale. And the way I look at it is that in addition to noting the number who said New Zealanders are not accepting of different cultures and religions, I also think we need to take into account the number of people who sat on the fence. And when you do that, and they were over a third of everyone that we spoke to was sitting on the fence. They weren't prepared to say that New Zealanders are accepting of different cultures and religions.
Oh, that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, so if you take them into account, I think New Zealanders are polarised. We've got roughly half and half saying they're accepting, and the other half are saying I'm unsure, or I'm definitely sure that they're not accepting of different cultures and religions.
An interesting way to end this panel. Emmanuel Kalafatalis, partner from Research NZ. Thank you so much for being with us.